Hello, everybody. Today I'm going to be talking about the reasons why writers critique books. And I have a couple of books. So we're going to do we're going to do Nora Roberts. The first one is The Blue Dahlia. That was book one in her Garden in the Garden trilogy. And we have the second one, which is The Black Rose. And then we have the third book, which is The Red Lily. You can barely see it here. But we're going to talk about critiquing books. So, some people critique books so that they can read books for free. They can read some of the new stuff out there. Some people critique books because they are superior and they like to feel superior, so they want to give their opinion about something. Other people critique books to learn something. And that's what we're going to talk about today, critiquing books so that you learn something. I didn't start this until a couple of years ago on Goodreads, and then I started realizing, oh wow, this book I learned this book I learned that. I learned how not to. And when you're looking at someone like Nora Roberts, one of the big writers, the ones that pump out tons and tons of books, you can see what their style is. You can see their languaging. Nora Roberts is great at people's characteristics. When she writes about someone, you know in depth who that person is. She does it in all her books. It's amazing to me how she can have people that are quirky, and she gets their quirks down beautifully, and she makes them quirky throughout the whole entire book. And then the next book, she can have somebody that's very organized. So like in her first book, Stella was very organized. Okay, she was organized, and she met somebody that was a little bit more chaotic in how he did things. He wasn't organized, and how those two clashed, but how they actually ended up working together. So the other thing that I noticed when you critique books is you find out what you like. And when you find out what you like, that helps you become a better writer. So critiquing for me has gone to a different level in the last, I would say, 6 months. Critiquing for me is actually taking me to a level of where I want to be or where I'd like to be as a writer. When I am reading the book and it just flows, and then I get to a part that I don't like, I stop and recognize it. Or when I get to a part that I really, really like, I stop and I say, okay, let me read that again. Oh, look how she did this. Oh, I wonder why that was, in the second book, because I like the second book out of all of them the best, Black Rose. I love the personality. I love the personalities in this book. Of all of them, those were the ones that I really resonated with the most. And that's when it kind of struck me as, wow, she can do different personalities and she really nails the personalities. So, of course, I gave this book a 5 and I gave this book a 5. And I wanted to give this book for Nora Roberts, I wanted to give it a 3. So it's a good read. You can read it from front to back. You don't need the other 2 books to read any one of her trilogies. She does that really, really well. And looking at how she does it also gives me ideas of how I can do that, how I can write that. And in this book, the part that I totally had a problem with was there's a threat of a ghost. So in the first book, the ghost appears and the ghost is just there for the children. And it's not a big deal. In the second book, the ghost gets a little bit angry and starts getting vengeful. Okay, I can deal with that. In the third book, honestly, if it wasn't Nora Roberts, I wouldn't have finished reading the book. And this happens to readers. Sometimes they don't finish reading books. And I haven't picked up a Nora Roberts book in a lot of years because there was something years ago that I read, and it was probably the third book of a trilogy. And it was the first book I read of hers, and I didn't like the book. I talked to my critique partner about these books because I'm getting ready to send them to her because she also puts ghosts in her stories. And one of the things that I realized is when we are critiquing, ask other people, did I get that right? What's your opinion? She said the first book's always good, the second book's always the best, and the third book never is as good as the first two. That was her opinion. And I thought that's really interesting because when she said it, I recognized it. Critiquing others gives us a way as writers to figure out how we want to do it, what we want it to look like. Maybe there should have been just two books and it shouldn't have been called a trilogy. Um, would that have worked? Could that have worked? Yeah. In the third book, she has the ghost possess, and I don't even remember who the heroine is in this one because Haley, I think, because I didn't really get a sense of her personality. She has her possess her, the ghost possesses her when she's having sex with her partner and gets really vindictive and mean during that process. And then he's way okay with that, which to me, lots of things happen in life. And if we write about them, people would say that's unbelievable. Because one time I was writing something true and they said, that's not possible. I said, but it happened. And they said, you still have to make it believable. And at the time I argued and argued because I didn't get what they were talking about. Now I totally get what they're talking about. It's not believable. It's not believable that after some guy's been having sex with somebody that's possessed, that they're going to like them after that. They're going to be scared as shit of them. They're not going to want to be around them. They're going to be worried about if it happens again. And the whole thing was so off-putting that there would be no space for you guys to connect and be really nice to one another immediately after it happened. Somehow she managed to do it in this book, and that's probably why I didn't like it. And at that point in that chapter, I had a choice. So I chose to flip over a few pages and not finish reading it and get on with the story because I wanted to know in the end what happened to the ghost. I wanted to finish the story. That's the other thing. Do you want to finish the story? So when you're reading things, are you reading them because you want to read them? Are you reading them because you think you have to finish it? Are you reading them because you started it? So when we're critiquing, again, I had that big aha a couple of years ago, and I realized if I don't like a book, before I thought I had to finish it. That's a crazy thought. I don't have to finish it. If I don't like it, why am I forcing myself to do it? So now when I'm critiquing and I don't like it, I just say this isn't my cup of tea because it's not my cup of tea. Sometimes it's about a subject that I don't know a lot about and I don't really care to know about. That's also helped me figure out what I want to write, how I want to write it, when I want to write it. The other thing when you're critiquing a book is, I was on a plane. I read half the book. I finished one book and then I was on another book. It was a pretty long flight. Got home and I had a bunch of business and I had all kinds of things to do because I've been gone for a week. Then I had another trip. I didn't pack that book. So it was probably 2 weeks later that I picked the book up and actually got to finish reading it. And I went to my marker and it was the plane. I had the plane ticket in there, the boarding pass. And I went to that marker and I was totally able to start right there and complete the book. In my mind, I knew that was a 5 because if you can walk away for 2 weeks, pick up the book and know who the characters are, it is a 5. Somehow you were engaged. So I had to go back and actually read the first part of the book to figure out, I finished the book, but then I went back and read the first part. How was I so engaged in that book? Because there was another book that I picked up and I read a chapter of it and I picked it up again and then I couldn't figure out where I was at. And then I set it down for maybe 4 weeks, picked it up again, and it was like, I can't finish reading this book. I did not get engaged. So it helps. Critiquing books helps you as a writer figure out your craft, figure out how to do it, figure out what it was you liked about it. Because, when I used to read just to read, oh, it was a good book. Oh, it was okay. It wasn't so good. Oh, I didn't like it, whatever it was. I remember I stopped reading Stephen King when I read Cujo because the boy died in the car. Now they changed the movie, but I was like, I don't read books to not have a happy ending. So if I'm going to write a book, it's going to have a happy ending because for me, that's important. There are other people that want the realism. I don't read for realism. I read because I want a happy ending. I read to escape. I read because I want to hear others' brilliant ideas. So when you're critiquing, it will help you become a better writer. My name is Donna Brown. I am my newest publication is coming out in a couple of weeks, so I'm real excited about that. And I'd like you to subscribe to my channel. Again, comments are welcome. What you find when you critique, how you critique things. I like to hear from other writers because every one of us has a different point of view about something. And it's great when I hear more points of view because that also opens me up to become a better writer. So I want to thank you for taking your time and listening to this.